Thank you for joining us today. Let's start as we do. Whatever you're doing, however you're sitting, your posture, don't worry about it. Just let's sit in silence or stand or in silence just for a little bit. Okay. For those of you who have done this, welcome back. For those of you who have not done this and are new, welcome for the first time. We have pretty consistent numbers, so I think most of you have done this before, but since this is still Meditation 101, this is session 6. Next week is session 7, will be the last for Meditation 101, and we're going to figure out what the future is, and you'll help me do that. You have been helping me do that. But since it is 101, I will give some basic technique instructions, even though those of you who have been with us several times know the technique. But for those of you who are first joining us, it's good that you get a grasp of that. And the first thing we do, we set our intention. Many people come to meditation for many different reasons. Someone wrote a comment I saw earlier this morning saying she notices that the meditation techniques help her go to sleep, and she knows that's not really the intention, but it is a byproduct. And whether or not that's okay, or should she be doing something else? If it helps you sleep, and you know, and that's a good thing, then do it, before bed, and it helps you sleep. Why not? There's a lot of positive byproducts to meditation practice. There are a lot of health benefits, but that's really not why we're here. That's not why we're doing this, to be quite honest. That's not why I'm doing this. We have a higher purpose in mind that motivates us, and we set that higher purpose as an intention before we begin, which we'll do now with the 4 measurables. You can join, you can not join. Nick, my producer, will put it up on the screen. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings not be separated from the happiness that has never known suffering. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment, anger, and aversion. Something that caught my eye this morning on Instagram by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, which I will read to you. And it really goes hand in hand with what we just read. And it goes like this. We can change our world for the better, not through the use of force, but by developing inner peace. It may feel like a huge task, but peace must be created by humanity, who are a collection of individuals. If one person creates inner peace within themselves and shares it with 10 other people, and each of them does the same, we can imagine influencing all 7 billion human beings. So basically, that's what we're doing, what we're trying to do, and why we're setting our intention on meditation, ultimately for the benefit of all beings, not just ourselves. Okay, so let's do a quick review of the technique, the posture, the breath, and the working with the mind and thoughts. Posture is back is straight, not stiff, not rigid, but upright, but relaxed. We use that metaphor of a guitar string, not too tight, not too loose, just enough tension that it works properly. The head upright, tilted slightly down, chin tilted slightly down at a comfortable angle. The mouth open. Well, The lips can be closed, but the teeth shouldn't be tight. You can have the lips relaxed, open, or just closed gently. It shouldn't be tight, it shouldn't be tense. And the tongue should be behind the teeth, near the where the roof of your mouth meets your front top teeth. You can fold your legs. You can fold them like this. You can fold it like that. You can use a cushion. You can not use a cushion. You could be on the floor. I like to have my hips even or slightly higher than my knees for comfort. You know, some of this is just based on your own, physicality, physical, flexibility or limitations or whatever. It's important to be comfortable. If you're in a chair, this being in a chair is okay. And if you are in a chair, because sitting on the floor is very difficult, painful. If you're in a chair, keep the back straight, like we are on the floor. Make sure your hips. It'll help if your hips are even or above your knees, so you're not slouched. The eyes, the gaze, the tradition that I practice, the eyes generally stay open, but they're not intensely staring at something, and they're not spaced out, unfocused, cross-eyed focus or whatever. They're not. They're relaxed but focused, if that makes sense. And you can stare at the wall. You could stare at something inspiring, a picture of a spiritual person that inspires you, or an image, or a statue, or a flower, or a view out the window, or nothing. Hands, I do this. I take the palm of my left, the back of my right, and then curve, and the thumbs touch, and it goes in my lap like this. But sometimes I do this, and sometimes I do this. Some people touch the thumb to the ring finger. I don't usually do that. And remember, especially when you're sitting for any lengthier period of time, it's okay. You don't have to feel like you can't move. It's okay if you adjust your posture. We're getting used to this, It's just, for a lot of us, it's something new, sitting and not doing anything. Although it seems like the most basic of anything, of the most basic of things, but for a lot of us, it is new. Don't feel so locked in. If you need to adjust a little bit, it's okay. That being our posture, I'm going to read something. This is by Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, although it's not. I'm going to tell you what this book is, but what I'm reading, I just jotted down from something else. It's about posture. When you slouch, you are trying to hide your heart, protecting it by slumping over. But when you sit upright, but relaxed in the posture of meditation, your heart is naked. Your entire being is exposed to yourself, first of all, but to others as well. Through the practice of sitting still and following your breath as it goes out and dissolves, you are connecting with your heart. By simply letting yourself be as you are, you develop radical sympathy toward yourself. When you sit erect, you proclaim to yourself and the rest of the world that you are going to be a warrior, a fully human being. Warrior, he does not mean going into, battle with weapons, violence, and things like that. He means warrior of truth, warrior of peace, warrior of compassion. Warrior of the honesty of being yourself. Like we said, letting your heart be naked and open to yourself and to the world. Have that in mind, taking your seat. There's something very dignified, regal, and sane about taking your seat in this way. So now we are in our seat. We're going to start drawing our attention to our breath. We're going to breathe through our nose. If you can't do that, breathe through your mouth. But if you can do it, just breathe through your nose in and out. Relaxed, natural breath. Not a deep breath, not a short breath, just as you are, as your breath is normal, relaxed. Focus on the place where the breath goes in and out of the nostrils, the place between your nose and your lip. The breath will be our anchor during the practice, meaning we will start to think as we sit here, and we will get lost in thought sometimes and follow a train or chain of thought. And the breath is our anchor. When we become aware of our thought, we go back to the breath. When we get lost in thought and become aware that we are lost in thought, we go back to the breath. That is the practice. Becoming aware of how our mind works is the practice. We use a metaphor of a clear, cloudless, spotless, stainless sky, perfectly blue and clear, with the qualities of openness, potentiality, clarity, calmness, peace, all those things. That's our mind. That's how we're looking within at our mind, at this very, very clear sky. Just perfect clarity and calm. And focus on the breath. And chances are we'll notice we're thinking. And that is okay. Do not follow the thought. Do not reject the thought. Do not judge the thought. Just go back to just notice your thinking like, that's interesting. And then go back to the breath. Sometimes during meditation, you may feel you need a deep breath. You might need the oxygen, and that's okay. And then after you take that deep breath and satisfy that need for oxygen, just go back to the relaxed breathing. With all that in mind, let us do 10 minutes of meditation. I will time us with my timer. Starting now. Thank you. Stay with the meditation. The thoughts that come in, think of them as clouds in the sky of your mind, the clear, unstained, luminous sky of your mind. And clouds, the nature of clouds, they emerge somewhere from the sky and they dissolve back into it. They don't affect the sky. The sky is not affected by them. The sky is not stained by them. The sky is not damaged by them. Same with our thoughts. Note when you notice them and go back to the breath, think of them as dissolving back into the place from whence they came, which is the sky. Notice the thought. Notice that you're thinking. Leave it where it is. Back to the breath. The breath is our anchor. And enjoy that peace and calm. Settle into it. Notice that we're not creating that peace and calm. It's there. We're not really doing anything. We're just almost clearing away the hum and the buzz and the noise, sweeping it away and seeing what's there. And what's there is clarity and peace and calm and potentiality for a lot of positive things. Notice if this state of calm that we're tapping into, is it a place of love, loving place of compassion to yourself and to other beings, other people, and other beings in the world? I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm just saying for you to look at that. Some of you may experience intense emotion during this process, during meditation. And let's look at it, the emotion, and treat the emotion the same way as the thought. Let's notice it. Let's not get into the story of it, follow it. The story of who did what to whom, or why you're sad, or what happened to make you sad, or angry, or extremely happy. But just notice the emotion, leave it where it is. The same thing will happen to it that happens with the thought clouds. It'll dissipate. Go back to where it emerged from. The mind, the sky. Back to the breath, our anchor. Maybe try to relate with the clarity of the sky, with those qualities. That image of the clear sky is not outside of you or even in your imagination, but it is you, if that makes sense. Its nature is you on a very fundamental, ultimate level. Okay, great. I don't know what happened with my timer there, but I think that was close to 10 minutes. Try not to judge your meditation. Don't judge it as bad or good, or it was better last week, or it was less thought that last week, or more thoughts this week, or vice versa. It's really not. There's nothing productive in that. You know, we're different all the time. You know, as beings. You know, some days you wake up in the morning and you're energetic, and some you're tired, and some you're in a bad mood or in a good mood. And the importance is the doing. You know, more than anything else. We're going to do a Q&A at some point. And what I'd like is, it's not just questions. Of course, you can ask questions, but if you want to offer suggestions of things you'd like to see in the future for Meditation 102. I'm going to read another. This is a really good book on, this is called The Path is the Goal, a basic handbook of Buddhist meditation, but it applies to all meditation. I mean, I've read a few times from Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, some of his other books, Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism, we read from at one point, but this is really good for meditation, beginning meditation. This is very interesting. I'm going to read this to you. Meditation is a way of realizing the fundamental truth, the basic truth that we can discover ourselves. We can work on ourselves. Let me read that again. Meditation is a way of realizing the fundamental truth, the basic truth that we can discover ourselves. We can work on ourselves. Let us discuss the term meditation. When we talk about the practice of meditation, we are talking about a way of being. Unfortunately, the term meditation is not an adequate translation of the Sanskrit term dhyana, or samadhi. Whenever we use a verbal form like to meditate or meditating, that automatically invites the question, what are you meditating upon? Or what are you meditating in? That is a common question that always comes up. But according to philosophy, there is no verb to meditate. There is just a noun, meditation. There's no meditating. You don't meditate, but you be in a state of meditation. Now, you might find it hard to swallow this distinction. We have a grammatical problem here. Meditating is not what we're talking about, but meditation is. Meditation is a noun that denotes that you are being in a state of meditation already, whereas meditating gives the idea of an activity that takes place. You don't meditate, you just be in the meditation. It is a noun rather than a verb. It refers to being in a state rather than doing. So now you might say, well, we're meditating on the thoughts. We're not meditating on the thoughts. We're not even meditating on the sky. Those are just techniques and supports for us to get to a state of meditation. Sitting upright is not meditating. Breathing is not meditating. Imagining the sky is not meditating. Noticing that you're thinking is not meditating. It's noticing you're thinking. Imagining using the sky as an image and as metaphor is using the sky as an image of a metaphor. Sitting upright is sitting upright. Breathing is breathing. Those are techniques to allow you to get to a place of meditation, a state of meditation, which is a noun. Think about that. I really like that. I mean, because, these are just techniques. These are just ways in. There's a lot of techniques. There's a lot of different ways of meditating. To follow on this, what we're going to do is, we did this last week. You're going to sit in your posture, and we're just going to sit and not meditate. You're not going to use any technique. You're not going to focus on anything. You're just going to sit. And we're going to time that just for 2 minutes and see what happens. I'm not even going to say anything more about it. I don't want no meditating. Just sit there. We're taking a break, but we're going to stay seated. So we're taking a break, and we're going to just take a break. But don't do anything else. Don't check your phones. Don't, sit in the posture of meditation, and that's it. Okay. And just think about that, and just notice whether or not you are in a state of meditation at any point during those 2 minutes. So if you're not using techniques and you're getting to meditation, then that does kind of support what Trungpa Rinpoche is saying, that meditation is a state of being rather than an act of doing. The techniques are just supports to get there. Someone probably of very high spiritual attainment is in that state all the time, I would think. And this, I wanted to read. This is, I'm not going to give you the name of this book because it's not really, it's not appropriate, right, for this class, but just listen to this. Undistracted mindfulness and continuous mental abiding may be difficult, and you must proceed by small steps. Nevertheless, it is crucial to maintain the effort without becoming discouraged. Small steps without becoming discouraged. That's what we're doing. Okay, let's get some questions going here. Namaste from Minnesota. I have a brain injury from falling on my head 3 years ago. I also have a friend who has a brain injury, and they've been getting interest in meditation, but they feel it hard to stay motivated to keep doing it because our injuries have short-term memory issues. They said, if I do it with them, they stay motivated. And we've been doing it together all this week. However, I wish for them to find that motivation for themselves because I feel they're missing out on pure peace and contentment. For me, just keeping at it, the more I meditate, the easier it has become. And I do it almost every day. If you have any advice on how to help them find that motivation for themselves, I truly appreciate it. I will continue to do it with them as long as they need, but I want them to find complete happiness when meditating and not feel so much, and not to feel so much like work for them. Well, I mean, that's not a lot of it's going to depend on their themselves and what they want, and I think for me and for a lot of you, the idea that you're doing this not just for yourself and not just for your own benefit, but for the benefit of all beings. Even though your colleagues have brain injury and it's something very difficult and something they have to work at and heal from and recover from, that does not mean they are incapable of uh, dedicating this pursuit to the benefit of the world and creating peace in the world. So maybe that's the way. Maddie says, what do you do if you have a song stuck in your head? I have songs stuck in my head all the time. Usually they're good songs, which is good. The same thing we do with thoughts and emotions. You notice it and go back to the breath. Sometimes, some days, our minds are very, very busy with thought. And especially when we start to meditate, we notice how busy the mind really is because we've never really looked at it. We've gone like this for, our whole lives. Thought into thought into thought into thought into thought. One leads to the other, like a strain. You can start thinking about something like this chair, and I think about, oh, I bought that chair in, you know, New York City in the year 2005, and at that time I just got over a fever, and so I'm going from a chair to a fever. I mean, that's how our minds go all the time. So we have to start to become aware of that process. And when we become aware of that process, we can work with the mind to have gaps in those interlinked thoughts, those chains of thoughts. Use the technique. That's the only answer, really. Don says, having recently watched the documentary The Social Dilemma, my question is to do with social media, the potential harmful effects it can have on our mental health, especially the mental health of younger people. What's your view on these effects, and can meditation and mindfulness be employed to reconnect oneself with the world around us and lead us to more fulfilling lives? I did not see the movie. I think social media is a byproduct and symptom of the state of the world and the world we are in. It's not an entity unto itself that came out of nowhere. It's part of our collective karma at this point. And I think I would not be here sitting in meditation with you, all of you, if it wasn't for social media. So like many, many things on the planet and in life, there's good sides and bad sides to them. And to somehow accentuate the positive and reduce the negative aspects of everything. Social media definitely is going to be with us and a part of our world. And I post on my stories a lot of Buddhist posts, specifically quotes from teachers that I hold in high regard. So, these are way of, if we use social media to promote positive things, and a lot of people do, that's a good thing, I mean, you could think the world is constantly evolving and changing like this. You can say, we might not have meditation in America or in the West if it wasn't for the invention of the airplane or something, I mean, technology evolves as we do. you know. And it's like I said, it's not separate from us really. It's a byproduct and a parallel to how we evolve as a species. So we have to adapt. Christian says, how does one manage to keep a healthy and calm mind in today's world with social media pressures? Wow, a lot of social media issues. Huh? I left social media for a year and felt very calm for not having it, but as a musician, it's pretty vital in order to promote myself, especially now with the pandemic. Well, like a lot of things, it's about finding balance, you know. Even work, you know, we have to find a balance with work and our personal lives. Some of us are, you know, are parents and have children and relationships, or have pets that we take care of. And you have to find a balance with work. You can't work 20 hours a day. And, you know, if you're in those situations where people are dependent on you and then not have any time for them. And in life, we have to find balance. Granted, our current world is a very fast world. It seems, you know, information moves very quickly, things change very quickly, things develop very quickly. At least that's my perception compared to 100 years ago, right? We didn't have 24-hour news feed. We weren't aware 24/7 what's going on all over the world at any moment. And we take these things in, you know, as beings and as mental beings, our mental consciousness. We take these things in and process them in different ways, and it's a lot. And that's why we are sitting here today. That's why we're doing this. Do you feel like the more you practice the state of meditation has reduced any anger present in your life? That's from Megan. Um, yes and no. You know, anger still comes. I mean, anger is there, probably will always be there for me. Um, what meditation can do is give us gaps uh, between the arising of anger, the feeling of anger, the perception of anger, and taking action out of anger, um, which often can lead to disastrous circumstances. I have found personally that acting out of a place of pure anger can very often, I'm not saying 100%, there's probably moments, maybe it can create a moment of self-defense, but in general, I have experienced disastrous results acting out of a place of pure anger. So what meditation can do is give a gap. Meditation is a practice, right? This being in the state of meditation, being in that state, practicing being in that state, because in that state, we become aware of our thoughts and emotions and not follow them, not engage with them, leave them where they are. If we can do that with anger and figure out maybe a better way to act to whatever problem or thing that's causing you to be angry, a more productive way, a more, someone once said, you know, when you're consumed by a state of anger, the perspective of sight, the perspective of vision of the situation becomes like, you know, 99% narrowed, if that makes sense. You know, and we see the world through a very subjective, you know, it's through a subjective vision. It's our vision. We see the world filtered through our vision. But even with anger, even that shrinks down to, even that, whatever width we have in our own subjectivity shrinks down to this tiny slice. That's why we meditate too. Okay, speaking of meditation, let's do another 10 minutes. And we'll do one more Q&A before we wrap up, but I would love to get some input on where you would like to see the future of this class going. And that could be that you want to just see it continue in this way, in the, whatever. But I need input. I'm asking for it. 10 minutes. I think you're getting the sense. I mean, I see our numbers are pretty consistent. So a lot of you have done this with me, uh, with us together for a few weeks. Um, and I hope you're just, the one thing I just hope you're getting a taste of is that feeling, of peace and of calm and clarity that is there. We're not creating it. It's there. It's just a matter of clearing away the obscurations to it. So hopefully you're getting a taste for that flavor. And the more familiar you get with it, the easier it will be to drop into it at different times of the day, which is also, when we were talking about anger before and dealing with anger, it's like what's one thing to deal with anger on the cushion sitting here like this, and you have a thought of somebody who did something to make you angry yesterday or a week ago or when you were a kid or something. It's another thing in the moment when you're walking down the street and you're confronted with something disturbing, aggression, or someone in your family does something, and you're face to face with someone, and face to face with your anger or any strong emotion, especially strong, more negative emotion or something. Um, Having practice with recognizing thought and emotion and creating a gap and a distance can be of great, great benefit in how we live. Okay, questions, comments. Yeah. Last week I brought up the idea of asked you to think about the difference between boredom and peace, peaceful mind and boredom, and I got a lot of feedback, and the consensus seems to be that with boredom there's a quality of grasping towards something that you don't have, and resentment at not having it. There was a grasping quality towards something you'd rather be doing, whereas a peaceful state is the absence of that. Although you might be doing the same thing, just sitting doing nothing. I think that the difference also is the attention. The peaceful state of mind is your awareness and attention is drawn within, looking at your mind, whereas boredom, your attention's kind of looking out as to what you're not doing and what you should be doing, projecting, lost in that kind of desire. Alexandra, who I believe has been with us before, says, I'm finding it difficult today to not notice the sound of my blood rushing in my ears. That's a pretty subtle sound, so that might be a good sign that you're hearing the blood, right? Because I bet normally during the course of your day, we're way too involved in thoughts and emotions and externals to even think of that. So treat it like everything else, you know. In a way, we're training almost our sense perceptions. So the five senses, right? Sight, uh, seeing, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. And the sixth one, sometimes they talk about, is the thought perception, which almost kind of brings those five together. If you treat all those things the same way we're treating the thought, because I think it's through those perceptions that the thoughts arise in a way. So if you hear the sound of blood rushing in your ears, you're perceiving it not just through your ear sense perception, but through your thought, the thought of the sound. So relate to the thought like we relate to the clouds in the sky, and go back to the breath. What is karma? Montana asks, what is karma? Is it supernatural? No, it's not supernatural at all. It's actually extremely natural. And it's very scientific, because in science and physics, they say that every action has a reaction on the most subtle of levels, on a very atomic level, you know, and by atomic, you know what I mean, what we're, our being, and what the physical world is built upon or made of, and every action has a reaction. That's really karma. So what we experience now in this moment is based on actions that we have taken in the past, right? The chair you're sitting on you're sitting on it because you bought it in the past, and the conditions arose for you to be able to buy that chair because you had a job that allowed you a certain amount of money to earn, so you can buy the chair and live in the place you're living. Everything we're experiencing in the present is related to causes and conditions from past that were created. And there's individual karma, there's familial karma, there's collective karma of a country, of a nation. Our karma is to be living on this planet Earth in the year 2020 for whatever reason. My karma is to live in the United States. I can, that karma may change. Next year I may live in Italy. That would be really nice because I love Italy and I love America too, but I'm Italian, so I have affection for it. That's really karma. So there's nothing supernatural about that. Like I said before, looking specifically at experiences in my life and examples where I reacted out of a place of pure rage without having any distance from it. I saw disastrous consequences several times in the last couple of years specifically. And that's like an instant karma. Instant karma is like, all right, if I throw my phone against the wall, it's going to break. Every action has a reaction. That also exists. So, but we're not just physical beings, right? We're also mental beings, and if you will, spiritual beings. So actions exist on subtle levels as well as gross levels. Actions exist on thought level too. Thought can be an action, right? If you think enough about something that you really desire, be it lustful or just greed or maybe even in a positive way, it makes mental imprints that will affect how we behave towards that object of desire or something in the future. That's not supernatural either, I'm not even talking about the power of visualization or something. I'm talking about your specific mental relationship to things, to the world, to others, to yourself. That's karma as well. I don't think there's anything supernatural about it. I think it's actually quite mundane, but monumental in a way. Padmasambhava, who was actually from Pakistan, before it was Pakistan, it was called Odhyana many, many centuries ago. He brought Buddhism, one of the people who brought Buddhism to Tibet before there was Buddha, there wasn't Buddhism there. He was one of the people who brought it there. Says, my view is as vast as the sky, but my actions are as fine as a grain of sand. So he's saying, I try to have a very expansive view of myself, my relationship to the world and of the universe and of the world and of the people in it. But when it comes to action, my action personally, I get very, very granular and specific about it because every action has a reaction. So every action is going to send something into the world. Look at that quote we read from the Dalai Lama today about if you create a sense of peace in your being and can spread that to 10 people, that has a reverberation. This is a very simple thing, sitting and meditating. Every action has a reaction. I'm going to tell a brief story. I've been blabbing so much today. I really shouldn't do this, but I don't know. I will tell this story. So I was on the subway going to Yankee Stadium from Manhattan with my two boys who were quite young at the time. And the subway was very, very crowded. But my boys, because they were raised by a good mother, the father was not bad, but the mother was very good, is very good. The boys got up and gave their seat to two older women who were so impressed with that, and it made them so happy, they gave my kids money. Not only that, though, the people, because we were so packed together, everybody who were in the immediate vicinity saw this exchange, that these young boys got up and gave these women their seat, and these women gave them money. that the whole energy in this section of the subway car started to shift, and people were smiling at each other and laughing and I'm not saying my kids are so great, although they are, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I just witnessed this chain of positivity and goodwill or good spirit, and it just was like this ripple. I watched it happen, and it was quite beautiful and quite clear how little things, you know, like when you're driving and you let someone go in front of you, it's a lot of traffic and they're struggling and they're not going to make it because everyone's so in their own thing and wants to get with their, and you stop and you let this person in. Well, in that really tiny exchange, that person's going to be happy that you did that, and that's going to affect that person's next action, and he may do something out of kindness in his next action or her next action or their next action. Every action has a reaction. That's karma. That's not there's nothing supernatural about it. Okay. Let's do 2 more minutes meditation because it's getting late, and then we'll dedicate, and then I'll see you next week. I really apologize for talking so much today. You had a lot to ask and say. I didn't get much suggestions about, right? The email address will come up on the screen. Nick, our producer, will put it up. Write me some suggestions on what you want to do with this class. Let's meditate for 2 minutes and then dedicate. Once again, I really apologize for, I hope we stayed somewhat on track despite talking too much. Those of you who have who want further information about some of the concepts, I post a lot in my story, a lot of teachings from both teachers who are alive and passed away. Look into them if it's of interest of you. If you read those quotes on my story from those teachers, look into them because they, that's where you'll find the answers with them. We dedicate our prayer. Nick, our producer, will put up the prayer dedication. Whatever merit, whatever benefit that we have got from sitting here today together, discussing these things, even hopefully, but through the practice of meditation specifically, which is why we're here, we will dedicate this merit to the benefit of all beings, and we will say this prayer: by this merit, may all beings attain the state of enlightenment and conquer the enemies of faults and delusion. May they be liberated from this ocean of samsara and its pounding waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Send some emails about what you'd like to see in the future. Next week is the last class for Meditation 101. That does not mean we'll be done. Maybe it will, but maybe we'll do 102. I'm hoping there is enough. And I really, I just want to, as a closing thing, thank you all by showing up to do this class with you. You've improved, you've helped me improve my practice and deepen my own practice. And for that, I'm very grateful and indebted. Thank you. See you next week.